Alright, we're back, and I added the final piece of plastic preformed vent majiggers to the forward fuselage. And you can see that I surface mounted them and faired them in with the filler. And that's a couple of 3-4 applications. Here's the final little bit of touch-up needed to fair in the bottom side. And what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to gain here with the filler, is smooth transition. In other words, I don't want any swoops or steps up to the part. I want it faired in smoothly in every direction. Maybe you can see that that's what we've got here. We've got a smooth transition over the top. We don't have something coming over the top and going like this onto the part. We want it smooth onto the part, and we want that in every direction. So that's what we're going for here. And once I get the primer paint on, that gray primer on there, I'll be able to see a little bit better what little touch up there may need to be to get those smooth transitions. At this point it looks pretty good, but the primer is always the telltale. It always exposes any flaws. And typically the gray primer works best for that. A white primer, things can get lost in a white primer, but the gray tends to show where the bear went in the buckwheat. So you can see how I cut out the parts, opened up the vents, and again we do that by using the ink marker to clearly define the lines, and then just retracing and tracing with the tip of our number 11 X-Acto, first around the inside for these cuts here, and then once along the outside for this cut in here. The point is you want to keep your blade tip inside, on the inside corner of any angle, not on the outside. You don't want to be trying to do this. You would draw that line if you were going to cut that away from the inside, dragging the point along that crease from the inside, not from the outside. So you always work from the inside. I've also got it painted black just inside of these so that it reveals the black. And what I'll do when I go to paint this, I'll just fill this with the silk span, the tissue covering paper, just cut into strips and rolled up and stuffed inside. I might wet it just a little bit and let it dry so that it expands and then fills that entire opening. Then after we paint, we just pluck them out with tweezers. There's no adhesive in there. The paint doesn't work as an adhesive. They can just be pulled out of there when you're done. Any touch-up black I need to do, I can do with a fine tip brush, carefully or not at all. There should be enough shading in there to make it appear black, but I wanted to pre-paint those anyway. I also hollowed out, drilled out the holes for the intercooler air dump, heat dumps, and that's these two small round ports on either side. You can see I just use aluminum tubing, appropriate diameter. Cut them about, I don't know, ½ inch long, and filed off the edges. And you just use a razor saw and a miter box to cut those square, and insert them and glue them in from the inside. Again, it comes in handy to have opened up the forward bulkhead so we can get in there and apply adhesive around the inside of those once they're installed and positioned where I wanted them. So those are installed, and then I'll cut small circles of the cardstock. Those will be painted red and inserted in there more or less edge on or sideways, as if the heat dump doors were open fully. And we'll do that. We'll probably cut those the same way I'm going to cut the well, no, because the gun sight's going to be cut with the hole punch. I'll just cut a circle of clear acetate with a hole punch. I think the hole punch diameter is too big for this, so these will have to be hand cut from the cardstock. But anyway, we'll get that done. So next steps, I have to get the cowling on and get that seam smoothed out, but I can't do that until I have a motor installed. Impossible to install a motor after this is on, so the motor will have to be fabricated, installed, along with the chin scoop, which will be built onto this instead of built into the inside of the plastic part. I'm just going to build it here to such a configuration that it fits behind this ridge, so it'll fit in behind here but it'll be attached to this after the motor's installed. Attached to this so-called firewall. Alright, so this is where we sit present. Again, these two parts were just attached, cut from the plastic sheet, opened up, intercooler aluminum exhaust ports installed, and now made flush to the fuselage with filler, or at least in the process of it. You can see this goes on pretty wet, but I use the spatula. So in this application, you just put a small amount of the filler on the tip of your spatula and just dip it in water one time, just lightly, hardly any water, and then you just kind of spread that on to get that to fill into that and match that radius, right? So we get smooth transitions all around. And that's that. I thought rather than just try and fabricate these myself, which is doable, I like to try and use as much of the kit components as I can in deference to the kit manufacturers. So I just went ahead and used the parts. After I cut them free and shaped them and sized them and everything, they seem to go on pretty flush. Did take quite a bit of, after drilling out the holes in the balsa for the heat dump port, also had to do a bit of shaping around it because of the way the plastic is indented there. It's a pretty large teardrop shaped cutout that had to be filed out. And for that, these jeweler files come in real handy. They come in different shapes, round, square, triangular. They're all kinds of fun and useful. So I highly recommend having these on hand, as well as just a real light duty flat file, and that's to take care of the cut edges of any aluminum tubing or rod you might use. You want something to clean up metal edges, and that's what this stuff works ideally for. So I recommend getting jeweler files and having at least one flat file if you're going to be doing this kind of work. And these typically come in a set of 6 or 8, right? Triangular, square, round, and there's a flat one here somewhere. Right here. That's another triangle. Oh, trust me, there's a flat one here. But it's really coarse, so I tend to use that only on, certain circumstance. Yeah, anyway, you get a feel for that stuff. But I try to talk about tools when I can. So, not a whole lot is required to do this. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, all hand tools. I don't use any power tools of any kind. Even for the drilling, I just use a hand chuck. I'm going to call it a micro drill, I think they call it. It has other names. You can also take the larger drill bits like this one, and if you need to get a better grip on them, you can wrap this with masking tape, to a 3/8 diameter roughly, and that gives you a little more power to bear on the drill point. Okay, so I'm going to start thinking about that motor. I've got a bunch of images on the computer now, and we'll be using our reference photos and other information to fabricate the double row R2800 Wasp engine for this kit, for this project. And so that's going to be the next step. Once I get that thing ready, I can go ahead and install it, get the cowling on, and get these edges smoothed out at the nose. And remember, this is not the actual cowl. The cowling of this airplane extended all the way to here. So this is really just a half cowl, and it's going to be very important that, because of that, to make this seam disappear, this joint absolutely disappear, if possible. So that's why, and I've got to get the motor in there to do that. After that's done and the nose is on, I can finish up detailing the cockpit. It's, as you see, it's still bare. So we get all the equipment in there, get the seat in there. The seat's ready, the pilot's ready. It just needs to be painted, and then we'll start looking at fitting the canopy too, maybe. Actually, that's probably going to be a little later. I think after I get the cockpit populated and detailed, I'll move on to the wings. And then what we'll do intermittently is come back and get this fitted so that it'll slide open and closed. And it's going to take a bit of an effort, but there's our fuselage. I don't know if you can get the whole image there. Got our ventral exhaust vent. We've got our two side vents, and then we have our two forward exhaust and the heat dump for the intercooler. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks for viewing as always. I appreciate you, and I've got some new subscribers, and I appreciate that no end. Some positive remarks on the channel, and that is the purpose of the channel, is to give information and also possibly to inspire other models. People are already maybe kind of engaged in this hobby, or maybe you're not, and you're thinking about filling your time if you have any with projects that that appeal to you. So anyway, that's the purpose, and I do appreciate, as I said, I've got 60 subscribers now, and I thank every one of you. Thank you. All right, so appreciate you. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back soon with some more videos.